case anybody wants to know. It's Wednesday, March 8th,
Just a minute, Mayor, sorry.
Sorry.
I apologize. We're gonna get on the record. Just to be able to get on the record.
6th. Do I get to do this again? Okay, it's Wednesday, March 6, 2024. Time is 5:35. Let's see, should we have roll call, please?
Yes, Council President Kaiser?
Here.
Councilmember Christiansen?
Here.
Councilmember Murray?
Here.
Councilmember O'Meara?
Here.
Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, our invocation is Gary Erickson from Canyon Springs Christian Church.
He's not here, I haven't seen him.
Would anybody else like to stand up and lead us in prayer?
One of the high school students.
One of the high school students.
You just scared them all.
Wait, no, that's,
No, that's not it.
please. Absolutely, thank you. If you would give us our name and then lead us.
My name is Harrison Reynolds. I'm a junior here at Pacific Ranch. Please prepare yourself in the manner you are accustomed. Our dear Father in heaven, we are thankful for this day. We're thankful for the opportunity that we have to gather as City Council and to discuss with the greater works and things that are going on within Middleton. Please bless that we'll be understanding and open-minded to all of the subjects and matters that are brought to this council. We're so grateful for this day and the weather we've been having. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Before we go any further, if we could all speak into our microphones, we're not, yes, right into the microphone. Some of us have hearing issues. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah. All right, council, we have an agenda dated or posted March 1st, 5 p.m. Any questions on the agenda? All right, then I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, first item, doing this a little differently, is we have a public comment on any non-agenda items of city business. 3 minutes. If you have something you'd like to say, and Jenica, when you get a chance, grab the, was there a sign-in sheet? Mayor, did we have a sign-in sheet?
There's a public comment. In the sheet.
So we're going to have 2 public comment opportunities. This is one before we get to the rest of the agenda, but you cannot speak on any items on the agenda. And those are for people that would like to speak on any subject, but don't have the opportunity to stay for the whole meeting, however long it lasts.
All right. First up, out of the gate, Marty, you're up. Yes, sir. Just to help Jenica, for everybody else, I know you already know this. If you're coming up, these record, so for Jenica to get the things correctly in the minutes, if you'll state your name and address so she can know what comments go with which person. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Kaiser. Marty Denham, 25381 Kimpton Drive, Middleton. It is a pleasure and a privilege to be here tonight. And it is a very rare privilege to be able to speak in public comments when people are still awake. So I will be brief and quick. I want to comment on a general observation. There's been a little bit of animosity in the last, I'd say, year or a couple of quarters I do remember former Mayor Rule making a comment about an email that was sent to him in December and said, well, that's from somebody who doesn't live in the city, so it doesn't count. Don't worry about it. So there's kind of been this natural adversarial relationship between those people inside the city limits and those people slightly outside the city limits that we call the area of impact. And we talked about that briefly, and I kind of did the speech on unity last time, and I don't need to repeat any of that. But what I did do is I did a little bit of homework and a little bit of research, and I discovered something that I wanted to share and put on record with the council. So the statement that I'm reacting to is somebody said, you know, that the council really should consider and give weight to those individuals that are associated with Middleton that pay their salaries. That's how I remember the comment, right or wrong. And what I'm about to say, you may already know. And I might be the last person on the block to know this. So what I started thinking is, you know, where does the city get its revenue from? And one of the things that I discovered is Idaho has a city revenue sharing program. And that money comes from sales taxes and income taxes that we all pay. So the people in the area of impact pay income taxes, and people inside the city pay income taxes. And we all shop at Ridley's and so forth and so on, so we pay sales taxes. And if we buy a car downtown in Caldwell, we pay sales taxes. So we all pay sales taxes, and Idaho shares those revenues with the municipalities, that is the cities. And it helps to cover salaries. And so I was going through the quarterly reports, and I've got these here if you need them, but in the third quarter, of last year, the state of Idaho shared $274,000 with the city of Middleton, according to what I'm reading here. And if you add it up for all 4 quarters, it came in just shy of $1.1 million. And that does not count the over $600,000 that was shared with Middleton for roads through a different revenue stream that comes from a different color of money. At this point, I do have to put my glasses on, and I'm sorry, I do apologize. End of the day, and my eyes are a little unfocused. And it looks like I'm almost out of time. Could I have like 15 more seconds?
15.
Okay. Revenue sharing, state of Idaho with all municipalities was $291 million last year, or this year, I'm sorry, this year it'll be 291. And from the liquor tax, nearly $60 million. And for roads, that's the last page, and then I'm gonna sit down. Sorry. 30% of state-raised highway users' revenue, I don't know what that all comes from, was again 30% to cities and to the tune of $64 million last year, and to counties and highway districts, $150 million last year. So I guess the point to be made is I feel as if since we all pay these taxes and we're associated with this community, it really does legitimize when we stand up here and we're not exactly inside the city limits and we make comments. I think it gives weight, and I hope it gives weight to you guys as well. I'm trying to say this respectfully and appreciatively, so thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Nope, I think we're good. All right. Mikkel Galloway.
My name is Michael Galloway, 8425 Spring Creek Way. I'd just like some clarification from the last meeting. At the last city council meeting under public comment, several people started to speak about items on the agenda. They were not speaking about public meetings or public hearings. They were interrupted by the city attorney, and I apologize, I don't know her name, as she is they are never introduced and don't have a name plaque, which I think they should. That aside, but she told them they could not speak to items on the agenda. I've only missed one meeting since the first of the year, and I've gone back and looked at all the agendas since then. The first one was January 3rd, and it said public comments. All the ones after that said public comments on agenda or non-agenda items of city business. My question is, why did this change, and why can we not speak to items on the agenda? How are we supposed to get our voices and opinions heard on agenda items? I know when Patty asked the question of Mayor Rule, He told us to call our city councilman. This is not acceptable to me. I want my voice and my concerns to be public and above board. We need a time to be heard before you vote on agenda items. You work for us, and we should be able to know how you feel, and you need to know how we feel. I just don't understand why we cannot talk on non-agenda items. Why are we even here then?
Questions? Well, you posed a question, and we'll get back with it. You want to answer it now, or do you want to get back to it?
No, I want to give you my card and have you call me tomorrow, and I will have an exact word for word answer for you.
And Mike, can I ask a question of clarification? There's non-agenda items and agenda items, especially those agenda items that have a public session.
I understand you can't comment on those, on the
Correct.
public
So-
hearing and public meetings. But
So you felt you were corrected with public comment
No,
that had
last
to do?
week, 2 people commented on non-public hearing and public meeting items, and the attorney stopped them and said, they're commenting on agenda items. I think you'll find that if you listen to
Yeah,
the
and
tape.
I'm not trying to be argumentative, just
Yeah.
clarification.
And I just didn't understand why.
Yeah.
It was not a public hearing, it was not a public meeting.
So those comments were made,
This is a public meeting.
were there comment periods available during that particular element in the?
No, what she's referring to is the comments at the end.
At the end, we only
Okay.
had them at the end last week. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Last
So
month,
that's what
yeah.
she's,
Again,
that's what she's
just-
referring to.
Just seeking
Okay.
clarification, make sure we're
Okay,
answering my
thank
question.
you.
Tyson Sparrow.
Tyson Sparrow, 211 North Campbell Avenue, Middleton, Idaho. To kind of piggyback off what she said, that was one thing that I really appreciated when Mayor Taylor was around. He had agenda items that were public hearing, non-public hearing items, and he made it a point of order if there was anybody that wanted to speak to the item in the audience, he gave them opportune time, kept it short. So just to kind of piggyback off that, but the real reason why I wanted to do public comments was to speak to the city council directly about the one meeting I missed this year, and it was when you put into ordinance the ability for the mayor to not take a salary. I think it's very admirable that Jackie wants to perform her duties as the mayor without salary, but I know that I've had conversations with council members that are currently serving and have served in the past. There is no other city in the state of Idaho that plays with the mayor's salary as much as the city of Middleton. And by putting it as the ability to, and it's just simply by putting into ordinance the ability for a mayor to not take a salary, eliminates your working class individuals that want to run for a position that might have a job that pays a salary from doing that and having that mayor's salary not become a political football. So essentially what you have is wealthy individuals that don't need to take a salary because they've prepared for that, and individuals that are raising their families that have day jobs that want to serve. It just turns it into a political football and a nightmare. I know we've discussed it several times. I've commented, I've had conversations with Councilmember Huggins, Councilmember Kaiser, Councilmember Garner. I just think it is I think it's a terrible idea. I was very disappointed to see that become an ordinance because basically you're codifying something that's gonna be a political football when no other city in the state of Idaho does that.
May I answer to that?
Absolutely.
So if you flip that coin, this is a full-time position. I'm
Correct.
here at least 30 hours a week,
Mhm.
sometimes more. Many people won't run because the job is for 4 years. So should we make that a forever job so that people that perhaps won't be able to go back into the workforce immediately after their 4 years is up, You know, there's all kinds of ways to twist everything. I didn't choose to run for zero compensation because I'm a very wealthy person.
I'm not speaking to you.
Right, and there's gonna be more that follow me, and there's gonna be more that will require even higher wages than the last mayor. That is a roller coaster that the city will just have to get used to. And just because it's not been done in the state of Idaho before, doesn't mean it shouldn't have. We've had people that have run for office that wanted to take a salary that were worth over $1 billion, and that was odd to me. So, at the end of my term, it goes back to what the wages were prior to me. There won't be an ordinance change. And if I change my mind tomorrow, it goes back to the salary that was before me. That was the way the ordinance was written.
I completely understand that, but my issue that I have is the codifying the ability for the mayor to do that. Like you said, it fluctuates between 30 hours, and it could be even longer. You could work up to 50 hours in a week.
So it's not a job. For instance, let's say you were mayor and you had to quit your job.
Absolutely.
4 years, you run again, you don't win. Now you're out on the street looking for a job again.
Right.
So there's all kinds of little things that you could tweak, and you could say, well, it's a never-ending job, so that people in the position to where they have to look for a job every 4 years won't be put out. So let's just make it never-ending. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
No, and I completely understand that point of view, but when you jump into a political arena, you go in with those expectations of, if I take this job, I'm gonna have to quit my job, and then I'm gonna have to find a job 4 years from now. I mean, that's the expectation of the candidate, but to codify it in city code, to have that there to where a mayor can waive that, when you have a public forum and there's 3 separate candidates, 2 individuals are independently wealthy, or say you have 5 candidates, 4 individuals are independently wealthy, and you have myself or somebody else that has a regular job, and the question is posed, if you run for mayor, are you gonna take a salary? 4 out of the 5 are gonna say no because they don't need to. The one individual that has the passion and has the heart that wants to do something and make a change needs to be compensated for their time. You need to be compensated for your time. And I understand that you don't want to take it, I think it's very admirable, but there's also HR factors that play into that, and I just think that we need to pay our public officials, including yourself.
Okay.
Thanks. All right, Mr. Grave,
I was for the end.
you want the end? All right. And Lori Clark.
Lori Clark, 24215 Willis Creek Street in Caldwell. I wasn't able to make the meeting last time, but I did watch it online, which I really appreciate that we can do that. And I just wanted to say how impressed I was with just how everyone handled the planning and zoning, adding 2 more members. Because you asked questions, you got additional information, and not everyone agreed, and you did it professionally. And I was like, just so impressed, and I just want to say thank you, because I think it's easy to be a sideline coach, to have opinions about things when you're not doing the job. It's easier to have opinions without doing the job. But when you took the time to run for the position, you took the time to do the job, and you make it look easy, and I know it's not. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for the job that you're doing, and I just really appreciate it, so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, President. Thanks, Lori. All right, that'll wrap up our public comments. Next item on the agenda is information item. Thank you. Mr. Van Gilder. Treatment plant, where are we at?
Mayor and council members, Jason Van Gilder, your public works director. Your treatment plant is at the other end of the road here from us. But actually invite the public to go down there and take a look at it anytime you'd like. or maybe get a call ahead, but we actually had some community members take a tour of it just yesterday, and they were very complimentary of the tour that the two operators give. So encourage anyone that's interested to go down there and take a look at it. The operators are kind of by themselves all day, and they love some company and explain what's happening. They do it in a way that's understandable to people that don't work in business all day. So they do a really fine job and a great job keeping up the plant. So always great to put a little plug in for them. But as for the plant, I think the issue I'm here to address was at the last public meet, or at the last council meeting that I was not at. There were some questions about whether the plant was in compliance with the codes and requirements of our regulatory agencies. The answer is yes, we are in complete compliance with our regulatory agencies. The secondhand information I got from the meeting was that there was concerns about something in the late teens coming out saying that we would have to do an upgrade by 2021 or 2022 to remain in compliance. There are two things that they may be referring to, and I'll talk to both of them because they're both relevant to the larger treatment plant discussions we've had. The most likely one is probably the draft permit. As we have mentioned before, the permit that allows us to discharge our treated effluent into the Boise River was issued by the Federal Environmental Protection Agency in 1999. Those permits tend to last are good for 5 or 6 years, and then they get administratively extended. Ours has been administratively extended since 2005, and then in that time, the primacy for issuing those permits has been passed from the federal EPA to the state Idaho Department of Environmental Quality. So that's who regulates our permit now. They had issued a draft, the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality, of what our new permit would be somewhere around the 2018-2019 timeframe. They then retracted that permit and didn't, it's not published now, you can't go on their online and find it. So there's nothing in the works immediately. We are expecting a draft of a upcoming permit imminently within a year, within maybe 2 years. That permit will have requirements that will require us to upgrade our treatment plant, which we've talked about before. As those requirements are set by a agreement between all the dischargers on the Boise River of what kind of loading and phosphorus they'll be allowed to discharge. They'll be based on current technology limits. There will likely be a requirement for temperature control, and all those things may have implementation schedules where we would have several years to implement them. They may not. We just don't know what's in that permit. We do know that we are at the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality published a work list for their permit writers in this coming year. Our treatment plant is number 2 or number 3 on that list, so we know they're thinking about us and haven't forgotten about us, but I don't have a time frame for when that permit is going to be issued. So it might be that that person was recalling the time frame in 2018, 2019, where we would have been out of, or we would have had the prospect of having the deadline around the 21-22 time frame that we now think is a deadline. It'll be around the 25 or 26 time frame, but we're not confident there. The other thing that might have been in their mind, I believe it's the Idaho League of Conservation Voters, an environmental group that publishes a report every year that lists all the treatment plants that have been in violation of something, or they violated their permit somehow and they got written up by IDEQ, and they do so for every plant that's been that had any type of violation over the past 3 years. This year was actually the first year that we came off. We had one violation 4 years ago that now no longer shows up in the report, but that violation was we were working on the UV system, the system that provides some disinfection to our effluent before it goes to the river. That system didn't operate. It's supposed to vary the amount of UV based on how much flow goes on so that it kind of saves power a little bit and modulates the flow, modulates the intensity to correspond with the flow. That system had not worked for maybe an hour or 15 minutes, something short duration like that. But our operators at the time, which are no longer here, notified DEQ that may have likely happened for a small period of time. They self-reported their findings and what happened, and we have since been running the plant, the UV, in kind of full mode, full power mode. We've got the dimmer switch turned all the way up on high, and the crew is now working on trying to get that system back to operate, but they've been very intentional on that. I do not know of any permit violations we've had since that time related to our wastewater treatment plant outfall. And they've done an excellent job of keeping the facility running and in top shape. Again, I'm always glad to refer people to go down there and take a look at what they're doing, because it's really great work, and we're very lucky to have both our operators, Nate Bryan and Ben Blow, have been doing just great work down there. They're interesting people and they're good to work with. So that's what I think I'm here to address. If there's anything else folks would like to talk about, I'll be glad to answer those questions as well.
One, Jason, if, let's say someone here wants to go tour, call City Hall to set it up, talk to you,
Sure.
Who should they talk to?
Call City Hall, they'll get to me, and I'll probably get them in touch with Nate Bryan, who's our lead operator down there.
Okay.
That's what happened this last time, and then they can work out what schedule it kind of is for them and make it happen. Thank you.
Councilman Murray.
I changed my mind, I'm sorry. A request to do kind of an open house day, has that moved forward at all?
We've looked at it. My suggestion would be that we wait a little bit. We're going to be talking a lot about wastewater treatment plant in the next year. We're going to have a little more concrete details about what's happening, as we will likely make an outreach to our voters to understand the issue and consider a bond measure to fund the new plant. I'd suggest that a open house might work well in conjunction with that type of event. But again, if folks want to come down there, they're always anxious to have folks. If we could get a school down there, we'd be welcome to show some kids around too. They keep asking me about how we can get some kids groups down there through there. There's always some issues about transportation and busing that present some challenges, but we're anxious for an open house. I think we just might do a little better waiting a couple months and then.
I'll go talk to Mark and see if we can get some kids down there for you.
Thank you.
And if you put a barbecue in, I'm sure that will.
Somehow that doesn't sound very appetizing.
It depends on which way the wind's blowing.
Yeah.
But you want to eat better.
All right. Well, thank you, Jason.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, council, we have the consent agenda items. First action items, consent agenda items. Minutes from the February 21st meeting, minutes from the February 27th special meeting, ratifying payroll for February 23rd, and accounts payable through February 23rd. I've gone through all the accounts payables. Any questions on anything on the consent agenda? Pretty status quo. Okay. And I move we approve consent agenda items A, B, C, and D.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, number 2, consider approving the final plat for West Highlands Ranch, Phase 18. Ms. Stewart.
Thank you. We're going to fuss around here a little bit because I can't present from my desk here. So, Jenica, I need you to get back into the packet, and I'll show you right back there. No, I need to have her It's right here, city council presentations.
Oh, right.
Okay, so West Highlands 18, and then do my comment. Yes. I can do it if you, and I'm gonna pretty much sit here for the rest of the meeting.
Okay.
I'll just switch. We need to get a circuit fixed over there, but apparently the electrician is just not talking anymore. You ready? Sorry, everybody, I think you're gonna have to kind of crane your necks this way. Thank you, Mayor and council members. So this is a final plat application for West Highlands Ranch. It's Phase 18, and if you look up there on the screen, you'll see where I plopped in the plat for vicinities near, as everybody knows, the high school, and there you can see Hartley Lane and Emmett Road there. So it's pretty simple. The plat is zoned R3. It contains 48 single-family home lots and 6 common lots on about a little over 14 acres. The plat meets all the dimensions and standards for the R3 zone, and there are no fees outstanding. There's no bond to look at. All infrastructure and construction has been completed, and City Engineer Amy Woodruff has approved everything. So, and I think we have applicant here, but this is pretty much the information that you would need to make a decision. If you had questions, we could bring up the applicant. Just stand for questions.
Council questions? Councilman O'Meara.
I don't really have a question, more of a comment as to the history of this particular site. It was originally set aside in the development process as a school site. And several years ago, the school was offered another piece of property and decided to move the new elementary school site further out of town. Made more sense than having all the elementary schools so close together. In doing so, as it was set aside with the school district, the Parks and Rec District entered into an agreement with the school district to maintain that site until they were ready to build on it. So that was the soccer complex for Greater Middleton Parks and Rec up until they decided to move the school. And so that developer decided that at that time, they'd build houses on it rather than leaving it as a park site. So that's why we entered into the agreement with the city on the parcel over off of Duff for a new soccer complex.
Any other comments?
No? All right. That was pretty straightforward. Just kind of wraps up. Bert, is this how many phases are part of this?
20 total, so we have 2 more after this.
2 more to go. Okay. All right. Then I move we approve the final plat for West Highlands Ranch Phase number 18.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Number 3, public hearing. Application by Richard Porter and Traditional Capital Partners, LLC, for development agreement modification with respect to 2 parcels totaling 115 acres located at 0 Highway 44 tax parcel number R339-38013 and R339-38011. Applicants are applying to amend the approved development agreement to add a provision allowing them to change the side setbacks for their lots zoned R2 from 25 feet to 10 feet, and to change the front setbacks from the same lots from 25 to 20 feet. Ms. Stewart.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and council members. So if you look on the screen, you can see it's located, this project, between Highway 44 and Middleton Road, and you can see the Ridleys up there where kind of my mouse is moving. The Riverwalk Crossing subdivision is already approved, and it was approved in October 2021. It contains 36 commercial lots, 80 patio home lots, and 81 luxury home lots, and they're zoned R2. So if you look over here on the concept plan, most of it's commercial here, the outer ring, and these littler lots are the patio homes. And then these are nice R2 large luxury lots. The applicants have submitted an application for a development agreement modification, and they want to change the setbacks for their homes located down here in the R2 zone. Specifically, they want to change the side setback and street side setback 25 to 10 feet. They are requesting that the front setback be narrowed from 25 to 20 feet. The proposed First Amendment to Development Agreement sets forth the amended language, and it would be just this. It would be paragraph 3.27, setbacks for R2 zone. The front setback for single-family home lots, homes located in the R2 zone shall be a minimum of 20 feet. The interior side setback and street side setback shall be a minimum of 10 feet. So City Council, when you look at a DA mod, there's no set standard or criteria to look at to make any findings. You just have to decide whether this is a contractual term that you want to agree with. That's the only standard, well, it's not even a standard, but that's what we're looking at tonight. There were no comments received from surrounding landowners. There was one comment from the agencies, and I attached it as Exhibit B. Applicant information is up there, legal notice information is on the screen, and pertinent codes is on the screen. Planning and zoning looked at this application on February 12th in the public hearing, and the commission recommended that City Council approve the application. So City Council must make findings of facts and conclusions of law when making a decision regarding a land use application. As to findings based on specific criteria or standards, there are none to be made. As to conclusions of law, planning staff finds that the council has the authority to hear this application, and in order to approve or deny it, planning staff further finds that legal notice was given appropriately and according to law, and also the pertinent codes and standards were shown in the staff report and on the screen. If the council is inclined to approve the application, planning staff does not have any recommended conditions of approval. If council chooses to deny the application, council should state what applicant can do, if anything, to gain approval, and stand for questions.
Council, questions for Roberta?
Are we gonna hear from the applicant after this, or is it?
Yes,
Okay,
it's a public hearing.
just making sure.
Okay. Questions?
So we agree, yeah, this one.
Yeah. Bring up
The applicant want to come forward?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. My name is Stephanie Hopkins. I work with PM Engineering for the design engineer for this subdivision. Our address is 5725 North Discovery Way in Boise. We're respectfully requesting approval of this amendment to the development agreement to allow for larger building areas, essentially within the R2 district of the approved Riverwalk Crossings project. So, Roberta covered it well. This property, the development was approved in 2021 with various zoning designations. It's about 130 acres located south of 44, east of Middleton Road. It's going to be a really great community with some wonderfully premier lots and some really great commercial opportunities as well. If you want to go to the next slide, or am I able to? Okay. So the property that is zoned R2 is highlighted in yellow, and that's the area that we are requesting to modify. We're not asking for additional building lots or anything like that. We're just requesting to decrease the side setbacks as mentioned and decrease the front setback by 5 feet to allow a larger building envelope. Next slide, please. So this is the R2 district, just highlighted again. Next slide. So the R2 district is comprised of half-acre lots. It's a pretty large lot compared to what Middleton has, which is a lot of R3 lots. The developer's intent in doing this product is really to have kind of a larger luxury type of lot to allow for a lot of different types of homes. So the flexibility that would come with decreased setbacks would be really beneficial to a variety of home builders and future homeowners. We're requesting to decrease the side setback from 25 feet that's usually required in the R2 district to 10 feet, and that's really typical with adjacent communities. Star and Eagle require that, and it's something that we see in a lot of the developments we work in some of those communities. And they do have the larger zoning districts too in Star and Eagle, and they really do try to get kind of a luxury lot with larger homes as well. The front setback we're requesting to modify to 20 feet as opposed to 25 feet. So if you want to go to the next slide, I have a couple of exhibits that depict.
Click, see if that works. There we go.
So this is just one of the lots that we were working with. The developer's been talking to a lot of different home builders and folks that are interested in the lots, and they've been running into trouble getting things to fit. So each of these lots will front or back up to a large pond. So that's kind of the hatched area, which decreases the building area available depth-wise, which is why a lot of the folks that have been approaching the developer really want to do kind of a wider product. A lot of the folks don't want to do double story, they want to do single story. So this is, if you hit the clicker again, so this is an exhibit that shows just a typical floor plan that someone had approached the developer with, wanting to put on this lot. It obviously doesn't fit because it's just right outside the setback. So the building envelope is shown with a red hatched box, and the floor plan is just outside that building envelope because of the side setbacks essentially. So next slide, please. And this is, with the modified setbacks, how we could make that floor plan work. So there would still be space between where the edge of the building is, which is in the dark black outline. The building envelope is now shown with a blue hatch, and so it's increased by 15 feet, so there's still going to be probably about 5 feet on each side, where they wouldn't be going right up to the edge of the building envelope with this floor plan. Next slide. This is an example of a home that would have to be built with the current setbacks. For the square footages that folks want to build within these lots, and the price point, this is what most folks would probably have to do in order to get the living space that they want. They would have to have like a 2-story home. A lot of these homes want to have more storage space for RVs or vehicles, and I think city code requires that you store those behind a closed area as well. So it's kind of to accommodate a lot of the city's goals there. Next slide. And this is a rendering of the type of home that they really want to build in this community, and that we are hoping would be possible for folks with the flexibility we're requesting, the modified setbacks. So there will be obviously a variation in architectural style and floor plan, but this is just an example of something that folks wanted to build and couldn't make fit with the current setbacks. Next slide. I think that's pretty much it. I do have the developers here this evening, so if they want to add a little bit of additional information, they're here. Otherwise, I'll answer questions.
I think we're good.
Thank you.
Jim Taylor.
Jim Taylor, 1052 Triumph Drive, Middleton, Idaho. Madam Mayor, members of the council, there's mention of input from one of the agencies, and I was wondering if it was attached. Could you tell us what that is, and if it was approval by the fire department or what? I kind of, and one thing, when you make an agreement, we kind of want you to stick to it. And modifying it and everything, that's your purview. But, I don't know, people make agreements and then they change them or want them changed, which is just something I oppose, so.
It was only one comment, and it was from the Middleton Fire Department with Victor Eastless, who happens to be here tonight. He had no problems with the side setbacks of 10 and the front setback of 20. The concern was though with fire flow, and that when you have a large, if I understand this correctly, if you have a larger house, more fire flow is required. So before any of the new house designs are implemented, he wanted the developer or builder to reach out and make sure that they can meet the fire flow needs with these larger homes. I think I'm stating that right, is it, Victor?
Yes.
Yay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Marty Denham?
Marty Denham, 2531 Kimpton Drive. You could argue I don't have a dog in this fight. You could. You could say, hey, you live clear on the north side of town, why do you care? I care because this is a pattern that I've seen in the last 2 years, and it happens over and over again. And we keep coming back to this same bridge. Now, I worked in the defense industry for a while. We have a term for it, and we call it bait and switch. Get you to agree to something and then kind of nudge you a little more and nudge you a little more and take a little more and take a little more. I'm going to operate off the assumption that when the city founders of Middleton and the previous city councils adopted a 25-foot setback, that they had a really good reason for doing that. But it wasn't 20, it wasn't 10, it wasn't 15, it wasn't 5. They had a reason. What I haven't seen is any discussion on why the original reason was there. I've heard a reference to Victor at the fire department, and I appreciate that. And then the answer I heard from Roberta tonight was a non-answer. I don't know if you caught that, but I'm going to reiterate. What I heard was he did have a concern and a lot of noise and discussion, but not really answering the question. You know, was this plat fixed? Is it in conformance? I haven't heard that. But what I have heard is we've tripped over this log in this trail over and over and over again. Somebody does, you know, they say they get a plat approval, they get a developer approval, agreement going, you guys sign on, everybody's happy, and you have an agreement. And then they're right back here a year later, and they want setbacks, so they want lower earth mounds, or they want to dispense with a riding trail or whatever. But, you know, where I come from, an agreement's an agreement. So on basic principles, no, I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not going to live in this neighborhood. I might not ever drive through this neighborhood, but on general principle and for the sake of the citizens of this city and the character of this city and the way we want it to look, I would urge you to reject the proposal. I think they can live within what they have. I think that was the original agreement, and I think you have the right, maybe even the responsibility, to push back. So please feel free to disregard my comments, and understandably, like I said, you know, who am I to challenge this? But I think as a general principle, we see a pattern over and over again, and I call it bait and switch, and I would ask you to reject it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Don Reynolds?
Don Reynolds, 452 East Walcott Lake Court, Middleton. I'm with Mr. Denham. I think we are oftentimes making exceptions to the rules. Where I differ with Mr. Denham on this is I feel like Middleton, I've worked in the building industry in previous careers, and I constantly hear how difficult Middleton is to work with, and I wonder if our unique setbacks might be part of that difficulty. Seemed like an oversight that could be remedied. One thing I don't think, or something that should be considered, this wouldn't make this community unique. There are other communities inside Middleton who have similar setbacks with similar sized lots, and I think it fits. I think this is a development that we are in need of. I think it's a great addition to the town. I'm in favor of approving this amendment to the development agreement. I think it works. And then I also, like I spoke to at the planning and zoning meeting, would encourage maybe to take a look at our codes and see if we're unique because we want to be unique, or if we're unique for a specific reason, but trying to work with making ourselves easier to work with developers and with builders and with others coming into our community is worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you. Tyler Hess?
Good evening, Tyler Hess Properties, 23536 Canyon Lane, Caldwell, Idaho. So I'm actually the developer on this property. And to be completely honest, there was no bait and switch. I'll take responsibility. I have built out in the county mainly, and we're using the 10-foot side setbacks. We wrote our CCNRs with 10-foot side setbacks. And on our builder, and that's kind of what sparked this whole conversation, he submitted for the application. Jenica said, hey, this doesn't fit within the city setback. So we're scrambling, pulling my hair out, thinking what happened. I came to find out, I found one that identified an infill project on half acres. So that's the backstory to this. The front story is this isn't, this is gonna be a high-end development, very great tax revenue base. It's the half acres going wider. It allows you, just like you saw in our example, allows you to spread it out for a single family or a single level home, which is more of our clientele. Allows them to have an RV garage. Allows the flexibility on that lot to move, shift back and forth. You're not restricted. And the research that I did was, and this kind of gives you the history of Middleton, but there's only been 2 subdivisions that have even been approved for R2 in Middleton. One is Valhalla, and one is Lakes of Talaga. So those are the only ones that are half acres in Middleton. Everything else are these small, tiny lots. And so here we are trying to bring a better product to the community that will benefit the community. You can see in comparison to the last one that you just showed, how small those lots are. So we did have our architect design a house that would fit on that, which looks like every other subdivision here in Middleton right now. So with our new layouts, these are the homes that our builders will be building. There'll be higher tax revenue, higher clients, and then the patio homes, which those look small, but those are all the lots that you just approved on that pre-plat. They look small in that comparison to our half acres. And then on the fronts, there's a 7-foot common area. That's where your joint trench, your utilities go in there. That doesn't count plus your front setback. It's really your 7 feet plus the 20 feet from back of curb is what that would be considered. But that 7 foot's a common area for your joint trench and utilities. So we just ask that you guys approve this. We have builders ready to go, plans ready to go, but obviously we're at the standstill to see if we can get this amended. And but yeah, I take full responsibility, not seeing that it wasn't the right way. To go further, I think it would be something I think you should look into. A 25-foot setback on a half-acre lot only gives you like 50, 60 feet buildable on a 100-foot lot. So for that, I stand for any questions.
Councilman Mayor?
Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I heard Roberta say that these were quarter-acre lots, and Tyler's talking half-acre.
No, they're
So
R2.
it's a half-acre?
This is an R2 zone.
Okay.
Thanks, Tyler.
And to clarify, I was the one that talked to Victor, and we confirmed that the square footage does work and does pass. So included in the garages, so we have a square footage that we agree that those homes would be in that 28 to 3,600 square feet or so. That's something like that. So, and that's kind of where those will all land. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. What's Mike's last name? No. Mike Grape. Mike Grape.
Mike Graves, 1889 Ridgeway. I'm opposed to this for really the simple reason. We start out giving exemptions, and basically that's what we're doing here, is giving an exemption, only we're calling it changing the development agreement on the code. We keep getting smaller and smaller. These are half-acre lots. It's certainly not as significant. However, on a half-acre lot, I understand why they want to make them wider and all that, but the big houses like that, and then you only have 10 foot to the fence, property line, it's going to be accentuating how narrow that really looks, for one thing. And so in the past, we've got houses that are being built right now that have a 5-foot setback on an R3 zone. And I just don't see, where does this end? Right across the street from me, as a matter of fact, in Toll Brothers, and I don't know if I can use their name or not, I did, but. We started out with zones more than three, R3. We used to have R4, 5, and whatever. And I presented this to you guys, and I presented it to the county. And what you're doing and I'm gonna go to that other subdivision where we made that exemption, and they're putting those houses on a minimum of 8,000 square foot lot. That's 5 houses on a buildable acre. I heard something about the right of way, and I heard something about this and that, whatever. If you want my opinion on the way it should be calculated, is if you know there's a right of way there, so you know you can't use that property. You know there's a sidewalk in the front and there's a street out in the front. And we're giving these developers the advantage of using the gross square footage of their development and then designating what they're gonna give them for the number of houses that could be built. And you have to use a buildable acreage because you can't do anything with a street or sidewalk or right of way. And you go argue with Utah Power, or that's the other side of the state, Idaho Power, or the telephone company or any of these other ones, that they got a right of way through the middle of your backyard. That's your problem. It's called title insurance and stuff like that. People need to know that stuff when they're gonna build a house, or if they're gonna buy a property. But we just keep piecing this down and piecing this down, and I disagree with the whole premise that we can't afford to build a house on that size of lot. You said it's Valhalla. What are the setbacks of Valhalla? I don't know, but.
I used to live there, I know. Sorry, go ahead.
But a deal's a deal is a deal the way I see it. And we gotta quit giving exemptions to these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Patty Crawford? She declines? Absolutely. Mike, you want to sign?
Spring Creek Way. I do live in Lakes of Tulaga. All of our houses, as far as I know, are to code, 25 feet setback. That's one of the reasons we love Lakes of Tulaga. When I read this tonight, I went out with my husband tonight and measured the distance from our house to our property line, which was 33 feet. From our house to the next house was 47 feet. This is why we love Lakes of Tulaga. We are not reaching out and touching our neighbors. We have room for gardens, we have room for fountains, we have room for dog kennels, whatever. I can't believe anybody who wants to build $1 million plus house wants to reach out and touch their neighbor. Lakes of Tulaga has very nice homes, and I just am very much opposed to this. I'm with everybody else. Once you start this, it will never stop. It's time to have some nice communities. This will be a nice community, but let's follow the rules.
Spencer Covett?
Spencer Cofed, 8454 Brookhaven Place, Middleton, Idaho. I'm one of the developers and owners of this subdivision. And I want to start out by thanking city officials. I've been able to meet with several of you recently on just kind of the bypass and things like that. And it's really nice to know you genuinely care about the city, so I appreciate all the time you guys have been spending trying to do what's right. Just to clarify on this, our whole purpose is to build a nicer product. And by the way, Lakes of Talega is 10-foot setbacks. And it was done, I don't know why in the Taylor administration we went with these 25s. It doesn't match anywhere else. Meridian, Eagle, Star, they're all 10-foot setbacks for half-acre lots. I know, like, for instance, Mayor, I'll pick on you because your house is beautiful in Lakes of Talega, and it wouldn't meet these setbacks.
Mine are 20.
Yeah, your shop is 10 feet on one side.
You've been on my property.
No, I was looking at Land Glide during the meeting, but anyway, just to clarify, we really want this to look like Lakes of Talega and Valhalla. And so this is to make nicer, wider houses. The 10 feet allows 20-foot setbacks. There are some 96-foot wide lots on these. If you put 25-foot setbacks, you'd have a 50-foot building pad. And it'd be really small. I really think we need to revisit the code on this. I don't know why it happened I think it was 2015 when they switched it from the 10 to the 25. I would really consider going back because I don't understand why it needs to be at the 25. It's excessive and it's really inflexible and doesn't allow nice homes. I do understand Marty and Jim's concerns with making exceptions. It totally caught us off guard. We would actually have about 13 homes going in there right now had we not all developed houses like we built all over the valley, all over the Treasure Valley, and come to you. We would have another, $300,000 in permit fees paid to the city and houses going if we didn't run into this 25-foot side setback issue. So I really hope that you consider that you reevaluate that, because it's not, Blue Meadows that I developed, I don't think it had, those are 1-acre lots, and I can understand bigger ones for that, but on half acres like this, it doesn't make as much sense. Let's see. I think we had a unanimous vote. I think Mike was on our side at the P&Z meeting, so I'm not sure why he changed his mind, but I like Mike. But just to clarify, so on our 81 lots on the R2 zoning, it's on 60 acres. So our actual average density is 3/4 acre lots in that area. So I'm not sure exactly what Mike was talking about, but we actually have a really high average lot size for the 60 acres. Any questions?
Spencer.
Okay, thank you.
Ken Greenwell.
That was my mistake. I don't want to speak.
Stephanie Hopkins.
I'm just the applicant, I just signed up.
Okay, anybody? You'll need to sign in. And if anybody else, this is your last opportunity. Sold. Teresa Denham.
I am Teresa Denham, 25381 Kimpton Drive. I've had a long talk with both Spencer and one of the other developers on this property, and you guys are going to be shocked here because I'm not absolutely against this. I don't think I like the setbacks, but I also am looking at the diagrams that they've provided, and I'm curious what the actual size of the property is less the water. Because I think what they've run into is having to have the drainage ponds because it is a floodplain, and there's certain requirements there. And I think it's gonna look like a nice neighborhood, but I do think we need to make sure that we, as a realtor who sells properties, I wanna make sure that we preserve what the character of the city is as well at the same time. So maybe there's a compromise somewhere in between on how to get those homes in, or maybe shrinking the home size down just a little bit, one or the other. But I think this is the place where we want to have more density, because this is kind of down in the center of town. So it's going to be good walking distance to some good services, and that's kind of where I'm at. So I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, but I think that somewhere we need to make some kind of a compromise
And I would urge you to look towards working with Spencer to create that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the applicant, do you want to come up and speak in rebuttal?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Stephanie Hopkins again, just for the record. I think the developers did a really great job of summarizing why they're requesting this. We worked on these plans back in 2020, 2021 when we were going through the initial entitlements, and it was an oversight. It was, we were looking at this like it was another development, not really thinking about the total buildable area that would be left behind after the ponds that we added in, which are because of floodplain issues. We needed to basically level out the properties. So not only are they a nice amenity, but they are functional too, and they'll be used for pressurized irrigation as well. So, design-wise, it was an oversight. Definitely wasn't a bait and switch situation where we're now coming back asking for something, having planned it. It's definitely not a situation that I think these guys wanted to encounter. I think Mr. Dem had mentioned that there was probably a reason for these 25-foot setbacks, and that may be the case, but I think typically when setbacks are created, it's based off of International Building Code requirements. They kind of go in line, and usually with fire code as well. And in this case, the fire department is okay with these setbacks, the new modified setbacks we're requesting. And the International Building Code would require, I think it's like 10 feet between property lines to make sure that there's not any issues there. So we are meeting the code requirements there, and I think that the city codes typically go in line with that just to make things consistent. As far as the building envelope area that's available, Spencer mentioned, if there's an average 100-foot wide lot, which a lot of these are, 50 feet is not available to be built on currently, and that's really constrictive for building homes, whether that's a single story or a 2-story home in an R3 district or an R2 district. So this is, I think, a reasonable request, and I think it'll really result in a better product overall, and will be create a more unique community. So. I think with that, I can stand for questions if you have them, but we appreciate your consideration tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Close the public comments.
Yeah. We're going to close the public comments at 6:42. Council?
All right. Council, before we get started, it was brought up about the one letter from, and I have it up here, from the fire district. It says, the Middleton Rural Fire District does not oppose the applicant's request to DA modification subject to compliance with all of the following code requirements and conditions of approval. Conditions of approval. Number 1, interior side setbacks for the R2 designated area in this development shall be minimum of 10 feet. Number 2, front setback for the R2 designated area in this development shall be a minimum of 20 feet. Number 3, fire flow. The fire flow calculation area shall be the total floor area of all floor levels within the exterior walls under the horizontal projections of the roof of a building, based on VB construction type, and total square foot shall not exceed 4,800. It shall be the developer or builders responsible to check with the fire district to verify fire flows as the development progresses and infrastructure is improved with the city of Middleton. So in terms of the fire, it's everything Roberta said, that they have to check with them to make sure they have adequate fire flow before. But they have no qualms with it. So. I'll start it then. I personally don't have a problem with it. You take an R2 lot, and depending on the shape, changes your setbacks. If you make it narrow and longer, obviously a smaller setback, you put a product on it. I understand what they're trying to get to. I have upstairs in my house, and I've hit a point in my life when I don't appreciate it. Not like I did 20 years ago. So I get the single level floor plan idea, right? Older people, like myself, appreciate that. So when I look at the setbacks, that's what and I've looked at this too, and the lots are longer, they're not square, right? It's not a square half acre, it's more of a rectangle, kind of heads into that water area. So it makes sense to me that they can't hit their little envelope. And just because it is 10 feet doesn't mean they necessarily are gonna build 10 feet to 10 feet from the line, on every home. So personally, I don't see a great conflict with what we're looking at this time. Councilman O'Meara?
Due to the fact that Tyler Hess is directly related to me, I would prefer to recuse myself from this decision.
Duly noted.
I'm fairly torn, because I think the public makes a good point about an agreement being an agreement. However, the applicant also makes very good points, and I understand that I think on most of those lots, about a third of each lot is water, on which you obviously can't build. So I see both sides. And there's a word that Teresa used, which is very rare in the year 2024. It's one of my favorite words. It's compromise. Thank you for using that word, Teresa. Roberta, would it be possible to look at some kind of compromise, like say a certain ratio of 10 feet versus 25 feet, something like some kind of compromise where it doesn't get 100% denser, but the developer doesn't lose out entirely. Does that make sense?
If you wanted a not so narrow setback, I think tonight, and Douglas can back me up on this, you could agree to something and it would be quite an easy thing to put into the DA, the First Amendment to the DA. It's just a matter of interposing a different number. Say they go for 15 feet side setback as opposed to 10. I don't know. What do you think, Douglas?
So to the initial question of, is that one of the things the DA can say? The answer is yes, the DA can say that. It can say what it says now. It can say anything in between, and it can say what the applicant's asking for. So if the desire of the council is to do a contract amendment where a third or a quarter or a half or whatever percentage of lots have a different setback, I don't know any reason why that couldn't be accomplished. If you're going to do that, I would recommend continuing the hearing, which I know is not what anyone likes to hear, but well, I'm a little torn about it too. We don't want to spring a unique thing that with a DA that hasn't actually been drafted. It's a little concerning to me that we are going to just sort of speak the language of the contract into the record. That being said, the alternative would be denial, and so in that circumstance, it would be a zero shift from the current position. So I would recommend that if you're going to do that tonight, that you reopen the public hearing and permit the developer to comment on whatever it is you're proposing, so that you have due process met for that change. But I think that you would be okay with, in terms of the notice that's been provided, of coming to a compromise position tonight. Did I manage to answer sufficiently cogently?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in my mind, what I was thinking, and it might, if it's too complex legally, then I don't even want to bother. That's why I was asking, if it's going to make it a nightmare. But in my mind, if you could do a certain ratio of smaller setbacks and then larger setbacks, and then you would have some homes that might be 2-story with larger yards, and some homes which are 1-story with smaller yards. And say older retired couples would be attracted more to the single level with smaller yards for maintenance. You might have a younger couple that's a little more well-to-do and could afford them, and you'd have a larger yard and a 2-story. So maybe you might provide a good, does that make sense to anybody? I'm sorry, you confused yourself.
That doesn't mean I can't enter the discussion.
Yeah, not as good.
for something like that, it might be better to deny and tell them what they could offer and come back through, if it's gonna be something that complicated. If you were just gonna change the setback number, that's a simple thing, but.
I don't want to make a nightmare for anybody, I was just kind of thinking out loud.
Right.
I see it two ways, or two sides of this. I see the letter of the law and the intent of the law. And then I see things happen, things occur that create us, anyone, to decide on the intent of the law as compared to the letter of the law. There are variances out there for these kinds of things, and it happens, I don't know how frequently, I don't have a number, but it does happen. Things do change, things do occur that cause us, well, us, to cause something to be evaluated against the letter of the law, to come up with the intent. I believe in this case, the homes are nice homes. The subdivision is a nice subdivision, even with the smaller setbacks. It's going to be a beautiful, in fact, I believe from what I've seen, it's going to be enhanced by having homes that have a greater presence in the community, personally. I also know that, things do happen. The intention in the beginning was to comply. But things have changed and they're asking for an appeal. So I think that we're observant of the intent of the letter of the law, but the intent of the law is what it is that we are trying to abridge. I think there's no adverse impact on this that I can see. The fire department has given their assessment, there's no adverse impact there. The community meetings, there is no adverse impact from that. It's not preventing a fire, or not a fire, but a flood hazard or some other adverse impact that I can see. It is simply, really, the debate here tonight is the letter of the law in compliance with that. We do have, like I say, to Mike's comment, it happens too much, yes, but there's sometimes reason when it has to happen through a number of different, whether it be setbacks, whether it be whatever. We have to evaluate each one and take a look. And I think in this case, there's no adverse. It's going to enhance, I think, the community at large, not just the community here, but the community at large, to Teresa's comments. It's going to be a beautiful asset in our city, in my opinion.
Councilman O'Meara?
I just want to point out that because that is in the floodplain area, you have a little different building situation. So you've got to raise the home sites up. So in order to raise the home sites, where do you get the material from? The pond. So because the pond is impacting the homes and impacting lot size, I still think it's a wonderful way to use ground that would otherwise be too low to develop. So I think it's a good idea, good concept. I don't see a problem with it, but that's up to you guys.
Any other thoughts? I understand where Councilmember Murray was going with it. I like to keep it uniform, just for our guys, so we don't go out and go, what lot is this am I on now, to measure with it. All right, I'll make a motion and then we'll see where we need to go. All right, then I move we approve the application of Richard Porter and Tradition Capital Partners LLC for development agreement modification with respect to two parcels totaling 115 acres located at 0 Highway 44. Tax parcels number R3393813 and R3393811. Applicants are planning to amend the development agreement and add the provision allowing them for side setbacks in their zoned R2 from 25 feet to 10 feet, and to change the front setbacks of same lots from 25 feet to 20 feet.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Jenica, roll call, please. Yeah, she's over there, sorry. Jenica, roll call, please.
Council President Kaiser?
Yes.
Councilmember Christiansen?
Yes.
Councilmember Murray?
Yes.
And
Motion carries, and Councilmember O'Meara abstained.
Okay.
Motion carries. This would be a good time, Mayor, for the break to get rid of our high school kids. Allow them to be, they just sat through a public hearing.
So we are going to take a short break. The high school kids can come up and get their documents signed. And 10 minutes. Yes.
Hey, spare pen.